But first, this is a pretty buggy one, a tricked out tundra buggy helping scientists get up close and personal with polar bears in the far north. Right now, researchers are hard at work in Churchill, Manitoba, also known as the polar bear capital of the world, to study the effects of climate change on the local wildlife.
Geoff York is up there right now working on Buggy One. He's a polar bear expert with the World Wildlife Fund and joins us now. So, Geoff, what exactly are you doing up there?
We're sitting here on the shores of Hudson Bay at Cape Churchill waiting for the ice to freeze and the bears to outmigrate onto the sea ice.
And tell me about the buggy.
Okay, so I'm sitting on one of Frontier North Adventure's Tundra Buggies, and these are vehicles that they've specially created and designed. They actually built them in Churchill, and they're made for both the terrain we're on, as far as the rugged rock and gravel landscape we have to cross, and also to keep the humans inside safe from the bears. So they're quite tall. The tires alone are about, almost 2 meters tall. It keeps the people up off the ground and safe. So I'm sitting inside here. Behind me, you can see I've got my computer open. We have high-speed internet access, so we can keep track of our work while we're up here. We can talk to people like you live from the tundra. And just looking around me here on the lodge, we have just outside the window the Tundra Buggy Lodge itself. We have 2 bears in front of us now and 3 bears off to the side. So it's quite an office to be working from, and I'm really lucky to be up here.
And so how exactly do they react to the buggy?
It's been my experience, both out here at the Cape and also in the wildlife management area just to the west of here in Manitoba, that most bears are just intensely curious. They see these large white buggies and they want to know what in the heck they are, who's this new character in the neighborhood, and they'll come over and check it out. Some will get closer than others. Some will stand up and actually try to sniff at the smells and look at the faces inside. So generally, it's one of curiosity and fearlessness, I think, too, when you see these bears divert course from quite a ways to come over and check out who's new in the neighborhood.
Are they ever aggressive when they check it out?
Very rarely. We did have one bear yesterday, and this is a bear that's recognizable by a scar on his side. So he was one that's had been around Churchill earlier this month. He's now out here at the Cape waiting with the other larger males for the ice to come in. And he gets up on the buggies, and he's known to kind of slap the side and do some things like that, but he's a rare exception.
Must be fantastic to be able to watch them so closely.
It is. I have spent about 13 years now studying polar bears out on the sea ice, originally as part of the U.S. Geological Survey research team in Alaska. And even for me and scientists that have studied them for 20 and 30 years, it's fascinating to be here in Churchill on these buggies and just watching bears be bears. Watching bears interact with one another, males spar, females protect their young, and just getting about the business of waiting for the ice up here at the Cape.
Now, Geoff, can you put that phrase, waiting for the ice, in some sort of context for me? What exactly or why are the bears waiting for it?
The bears hang out here in Cape Churchill specifically, and along the coast to the town of Churchill, because of the geology of the coast and the ocean dynamics. So we're on this little peninsula of land, and it's the place in Hudson Bay that catches the sea ice that forms the first. It's also one of the areas in the bay that holds the last of the melting sea ice, and it's just due to the predominant winds and the way the landscape here is featured. So in the summer, this is the area the bears get off the ice on. They tend to wait here most all of the summer. As it's getting colder now, and this is a very late freeze up here, bears start to out-migrate from the shoreline. They actually will move along the coast to places like Cape Churchill, Gordon Point closer into town, and that's where they're likely to get on the ice first, so that's why they come to these places.
And why do they want to get on it?
They want to get out on the ice to do what bears do best, and that's hunt seals. These bears have been on shore here, according to Daryl Hedman with Manitoba Conservation, since about July 20th. This may yet be a historic late year for freeze-up in Hudson Bay, according to Canadian sea ice scientists. So we're looking at a 4+ month period that most of these bears have had nothing to eat. So these bears are hungry, and they're ready to go back out and start looking for the food that makes them polar bears, and that's mostly ring seals.
Now, I know the area that you're working in has been studied for some time, and there have been lots of suggestions that the bears there are stressed, both because the ice breaks up early in the spring and doesn't form until late in the winter. So can you give us a sense of just how the bears around you are doing?
It's sometimes hard to put it in context because in the worst of years, you're going to have winners, and in the best of years, you're going to have losers with any wildlife, and polar bears are no different. Here at the Cape this year, we're seeing some bears that are in really good shape, and we're seeing others struggle. We have a mum and a couple of cubs very near camp that aren't doing well, and we've seen a few skinny males come through as well. But it's hard to assess when you look at just a flash in time. You really have to look at the long-term data sets and put it in that sort of context.
Well, every bit of evidence that you and others gather, let's hope, can be used to help them survive. Thanks a lot for this, Geoff.
No problem. Thanks for your interest.
Geoff York's a polar bear expert with the World Wildlife Fund. He joined me today from Buggy One in Churchill, Manitoba.